Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast. It feels a wee bit like deja vu from this morning, but we're here and we're ready, joined by William and Ross. How are you both?
Good, mate. All good.
Aye, not bad, not bad. I've got my first Saturday off tomorrow in 2 weeks, so I'm quite happy I don't need to dive out of bed tomorrow morning, and I'm here to have a couple of beers and talk Celtic with the boys.
100%. And I do want to say to everyone watching along, happy St. Patrick's Day. Hope we're all having a good one. Whatever you're doing, drinking, probably land sleeping somewhere, enjoy it, have fun, and then recover tomorrow watching Celtic play. But as you said, actually before that, our show sponsor, Sharna, get involved, clothing brand, football in the terraces, all that type of stuff for your 10% off. Description in below. And also a big shout out to, if I can get this out, Lurgan Celtic, our podcast partner, send over this lovely bit of merchandise. Great to have the support of the guys from Lurgan Celtic as well. Plenty more to come on that front. But to come to you, Ross, now I thought it'd be a fitting way to talk about Scott Brown to start off. Obviously, we're playing Hibs. Him and Lustig are doing the hydro, basically their farewells to the Celtic Football Club. And we'll kick-start it right back when, and that's when the 4.4 million deal happened. There's still the Scottish record, I believe, between two Scottish clubs. What was your thoughts on the man, the captain, the leader, the legend of Scott Brown at that time?
When he initially came in,
yeah,
I was excited. Obviously, at the time, there was a bit of sort of rumours going about that it was between Celtic and Rangers. Rangers were in from, obviously, he chose Celtic. I was delighted when he came to the club. Obviously, when he came in, he was still very raw, but his performances for Hibs, and even against us, he had some good battles with Neil Lennon when he was playing for us. And I was always impressed by him. At that time, when he was playing with Hibs, he was really dynamic. He was in your face. Don't get me wrong, he was in your face when he came to Celtic as well. But he was really dynamic, box to box, just a real, like a real nuisance, if you like. And Neil Lennon and him had a few set twos, like I say. But he came into Celtic and he didn't have the best start for reasons that we all know. But that first while, it was always, you were wondering when he was next going to be sort of missing a game due to too many bookings or whatever. But through time, he took that, without losing that bit of bite, if you like. He did take that silly bookings out of his game. But that comes with experience and age. You sort of mellow. I've still to do that, but
well, that's definitely true.
But I mean, like I say, when he came in, I thought he was going to be a really good signing for us. I didn't think he would be as good and as colossal as what he turned out to be, and give us as many years of service. But that's what he done, and he was an absolutely outstanding player and captain for Celtic. And probably the biggest compliment I could sort of pay him is he was our version, and at that time Scottish football's version, Man United's Roy Keane. He was just that big a figure at the club in terms of a captain. People looked up to him. Every player that came in, Scott Brown, you knew Scott Brown. He was the captain. There was that respect. He commanded respect, and he got respect. And that's what Roy Keane done. As much as I lean towards Arsenal, and I always preferred Patrick Vieira because of Arsenal, Roy Keane's been the best captain in English Premier League history, and I think you could probably send that towards Scott Brown as well.
I think that's true. I mean, the Roy Keane comparison is probably spot on, Ross, in terms of what he brought to the club, and especially in the latter years when he changed his role. But Willie, I mean, Alistair Jacobs in here. I was buzzing. Don't forget Tommy Burns part of the deal, 100%. And also as well, it was rumoured to be between, or even both, Kevin Thompson and Scott Brown at that time, a double deal. Do you think it's I mean, dividends that we got the best part of that bargain? I know Kevin Thompson went on to have a career-ending injury, but Scott Brown, I mean, days, years, levels, like.
Yes, I was actually going to talk about that because at the time I remember it was like it was going to be one or the other, and I remember thinking I would prefer Thompson at the time. Shows what I fucking know. But I think Ross was spot on with came in using the word dynamic. That's exactly what he was. Austin Forward was great. He obviously changed in the tail end of his career, and 4.4 million is a lot of money. It's like a lot of money for us to spend now. Never mind back then. And I can never actually remember questioning that amount of money at the time.
No.
It's where I probably would now. I know I always have a go at you, Stephen, for SPL watch, but if we're spending 4 million on another SPL player now, you'd be surprised. So it's interesting. But I mean, 4.4 million, well, probably the best 4.4 million we'll ever spend. What a career he's had at Celtic. He's right up there with some of the biggest icons in the club for me. What he achieved, and yeah, there's not much more you can say about the man. But to start off with, dynamic, powerful, drive. He was great at that side of things. But when he changed his role, what a player!
Oh, he turned out to be magnificent. And you say early on he won the Player of the Year 2008-2009 season. And I remember with Gordon Strachan sometimes played him on the right hand side. Remember he used the ball up down the right wing or an attacking midfield type role. But then Ross, fast forward a wee bit, Tony Mowbray comes in and like a disaster. Like that man, take it on the chin, Mowbray. Do you know what I mean? But he made one right choice and all the clouds and stuff. And even Brown, I thought, funny enough, admitted it himself. He thought it was too early for him to get the captaincy. But it was a masterstroke. It brought the club together, and then it paved the way for Neil Lennon's kind of first spell in charge, having that kind of mainstay in the team. And as you pointed to, he went through the struggles at the start. We all know why, family issues and stuff like that. Then he bedded himself into the team, European football, playing consistently well in the league, getting the captaincy. Were you surprised at the time, or who would have been your choice in that Mowbray team?
I mean, we weren't littered with options. I don't know. It's hard to try and remember. I'm trying to think what the squad was then, because it was so poor.
It was terrible.
But there wasn't a great deal of choice. But I mean, maybe it was too early for him. But it's difficult to think back that far if I felt at the time it was too early. But it certainly proved in the fullness of time that it wasn't too early for him. And he was a tremendous captain, one of the best that we've ever had. Basically.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying, obviously, but you look at it, Willie, what was he, 20? He finished us 36, he was probably 24, 25 when he got the captaincy. I mean, it doesn't sound young in terms of that, but it is not bad. In terms of the squad, you're probably looking at, I don't know, who was their centre back with Mowbray? I can't remember. Was it Rogney?
Was McManus away at the time? Then,
that's what happened. McManus left, and that's why the captaincy was up. They put Brown in. Then I think they still had Maloney at that time. Rasmussen, King came in on loan and all that type of shit.
I'm not keen on. See for
Adam
me,
Virgo.
See for me, I don't know if I'm just old school, but for me, your captain should be a centre half or centre mid.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I agree with that.
Goalkeeper, no?
Nah, I'm not having that.
Nah. But as what Ross was saying, Scott Brown getting captaincy, masterstroke.
Absolutely. Like you said, he's one of our greatest ever captains. I don't think anybody could argue that. He's the titles and trophies he's won in his tenure, and not just that, he was captain for 90% of that. And I can't remember who said it. I don't know if it was Cal Mac recently that said he's Mr. Celtic. He was the one when the players came in. He made them. He taken on for like Tommy Burns, and he made them realise what Celtic's about and the history and all the rest of it. And what a job he did. I mean, we were all talking about when he left that was a bit of a mess at the time. And I think if Andrew was in sooner, that he wouldn't have went anywhere, and he would have stayed a part of the team and then possibly part of the coaching side. But I thought it was a massive loss for us at the time, just for somebody to kind of take that mantle. But at the same time, Cal Max came in and grabbed that with both hands, and he's absolutely running with it. And I don't think Broony would be where he is now in his managerial career if he didn't do it. So I mean, it all works out. But I'm glad he's getting this hydro day, because he's not really. I seen his interviews the other day, and he was talking about how he didn't really get a send off, and he went off injured when Aberdeen came and played us, and he got a standing ovation, and he kind of said that I didn't feel it was. I thought it'd be disrespectful if I kind of acknowledged it. Considering the away fans, Aberdeen fans had travelled, and he said I thought it'd be a bit disrespectful, so I didn't kind of acknowledge it or take it in. So I'm glad he's getting his moment in the sun now, because by God, if anybody deserves it, it's him.
Yeah, it was quite disheartening. I remember seeing them pictures he put up when he was leaving, sitting on the ball in an empty stadium.
No fans,
it wasn't great.
fucking
With no
horrid.
fans, and obviously the disaster last season. Alistair Jack wanted to remind us who was in that squad: centre back Josh Thompson, Glenn Loovens, and Joyce Hoyfield. Wow. Patrick McLaughlin was in. I made one of Brown's early games for Hearts at Celtic Park. We won 4-0. I'm sure he scored. He was superb beside Denali that day. Yeah, he had early promises. As Ross alluded to at the start, he was dynamic, he was fast, and that changed throughout the years. And I want to talk about some of the challenges that Scott Brown faced player-wise, Ross. And the first one really comes to mind, is the most famous, where the Broony was born against El Hadj. El Hadj is, he's an absolute animal. Like, to be fair, probably appropriate for what team he played for. Spitting at fans when he played against us, against Liverpool, didn't he? He did something like that, and he carried that on into his Rangers career. And Scott Brown had his number from day one.
Aye, I mean, absolutely. He done it. You're probably going to touch on it. I'll not mention names, but he done it to numerous guys who came up here, from down south, playing in the Premier League, running their mouth off. Obviously, Jeff wanted to come up and be that sort of pantomime villain. Latter stage of his career, maybe didn't have the legs of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jeff was a decent player. You don't go to Liverpool if you're no got a bit about you, but I mean, he sort of got that move off a decent few games at a World Cup, and he flattered to deceive at Liverpool, but he's came up here, thought he was the big I am, and Brown just fucking absolutely rinsed him. Obviously, he didn't go. It wasn't like head to head on the park. He wasn't marking him or that, because different positions. But when he cut, I mean, I think we're down to 10 men at that time at Ibrox Cup quarter final. You're looking for a goal. We started to get, if I remember right, we were starting to get a bit of a foothold in the game at that point, even though we had 10 men. And you're thinking, maybe I could get a draw out of this, but it's looking difficult. But yeah, you're thinking you can maybe get a draw out of it, but not for 1 second did I expect Scott Brown to pop up and curl one into the top corner. But after he does that, not for 1 second did I think he would stand right in front of Jeff's face. He's done some belters in front of the Rangers fans and that, but as shithouser he goes, that was top tier.
That was fucking top tier.
It was Juice's face. Do you remember Juice's face when it happened? He was like,
aye,
trying to complain to the referee like he done some sort of foul on him. Aye,
obstruction.
I think it's. I mean, with the likes of Juice, I don't know what it is for these players come up and target Brown, Willie. It seems to be like, I know we're going to come on to another few players as well before we move on from Scott Brown, but for me, that's the mark of the guy. The players would actively target him and come up and try and compete with him. Because even at that time, it was still very early on in his captaincy, and he was making strides. We're winning league titles, winning cups, continued to the end. And like Ross said, the whole El Hadj moment just, for me, propelled him to another level and another sort of love for the Celtic fans.
Yeah, I definitely think that was a turning point, and like the fans and the love and the relationship between them. I mean, it's an iconic moment. As soon as you say Broony, it's one of the first moments that pop into your head. I think Ross said it was fucking down to 10 men, and we were looking down and out, and he pops up with a goal on his weak foot, and it's a cracker of a finish as well. If that's me in a big game like that, we're down to 10 men and you're scoring that goal, I'm in the crowd with the shirt off. But no, Broony. He remembered what happened before, and he's like, right, where is that wee bastard? I think he was a target. See, to be fair, Broony was obviously pretty arrogant as well, but not not in the way that the likes of Juve, and I'm sure we'll talk about Joey Barton and that as well. And he ran his mouth, but he ran his mouth once we'd done the business.
At the right times, aye.
At the right times, no beforehand, and making himself look a silly Billy. And I think he was targeted before that. I mean, like, Lennon was obviously targeted. There's that between the fans where there's that one player that the opposition just fucking despise.
Oh, fuck, yes.
I mean, like, we were the same in a number of players on their side as well.
Probably is,
but he wasn't daft with it. he's nowhere near Angie's level, but he's quite clever. He was quite clever with the arrogance and knowing when to stick the knife in. And it was after we did the business that he would kind of taunt, just like he did Juve that day. So he was quite clever that way.
Yeah, I mean, he learned that very early on, didn't he? In terms of having to like respect levels and show his kind of arrogance up the pitch, but do it at the right times. Because before, when he first came in, he was in people's faces. He was slide tackling people. He was up and then trying to fight them and getting bookings, like Ross said at the start there. I mean, Jed Thomas talks about El Hadj Diouf. I'm pretty sure he's like director of football for Senegal. I'm pretty sure he was a picture of him at the World Cup or something like that, and he was sitting in the stands. And he must be. I think he has some sort of position in their FA, which is mental to be fair. Like, what a role model. Chief spitter, aye. If you'd spit long distance, never mind long distance running, eh? Alistair Jack, Scott Brown was the player Peter Grant wanted to be. Is that harsh? I don't know. I have never really seen Peter Grant play.
Well, they used to say Paul McStay done the hard bits and Peter Grant just done all the wee kind of side passes and all that. But they worked together really well. But I thought, well, I actually watched extended highlights of the 95 cup final, Van Hooijdonk against Airdrie, and Peter Grant was man of the match that day. He was absolutely outstanding. Obviously, I watched the highlights. What a performance he had! There was a moment towards the end of the game. He'd been down injured, and then he chased back, and he was in pain. You could tell he's in pain, and he think with every sinew to get there and make this tackle. And just bounced back up, but then fell total in pain. But Peter Grant was just an out and out Celtic man, and he would have died for the club. So I suppose it's difficult for me to say because I never seen all of Peter Grant's career because I'm still a wee bit too young. But what I can remember him, Peter Grant was decent.
I mean, to be fair, Jed Thomas says bang on, like, and Patrick McLaughlin, David Hanna was worse than Peter Grant.
Oh. Again,
my knowledge back then's a bit hazy, boys. I was like 2 or something in '94 or whatever. But see, to be fair, William, coming back to it, like Joey Barton's the next one. Remember the whole headlines? He was going to be the best midfielder in the country by a long distance. He won Player of the Year Burnley, I believe, on the promotion chase back to the Premier League when they got promoted. It's one of these ones with Barton. He was Ross said equivalent to Roy Keane. He was the equivalent to Brown in my eyes in terms of what Burnley had down south, that kind of arrogant midfielder. But that first game, when we stuffed them at Parkhead, the tricolour at the Green Brigade end, Moussa Dembele running rat, Scott Brown running rings, Mount Joey Barton. Because them other seasons, people were saying he was dropping form. He was losing it. He looked slow. Rodgers came in, fixed him up again, and I think, my personal opinion, he played his best football under Rodgers.
I maybe agree with that. I think there was definitely a dip, but I mean there was a dip with everybody with fucking Mowbray and all that coming in. But Rodgers definitely.
I mean Ronnie Dowley as well. That type of era when he was. Yeah.
But I mean Rodgers came in and he did it with a number of players. He did it with Forrest as well. Forrest was everybody's scapegoat, and he turned him into an absolute baller. So. I wouldn't disagree with that. And that's exactly what I'm talking about after that game as well. Broony never said a word before it. All the headlines were Joey Barton running his mouth before he's even kicked the ball. And I remember the interview afterwards, and Broony was just saying what Joey Barton said without quoting him. Like, coming up here and going to run that, but we're the big boys up here, and you're in our backyard now, son, and we've just taught you a lesson pretty much. Smacked your bum, pulled your panties down and smacked your wee bum in front of everybody in the telly. And that's what I was talking about. Never said a word before it. Did he's talking on the pitch, and then, quite rightly so, stuck the knife in afterwards. Yeah,
I think as well, he beat Barton with Fleetwood against his team down there as well. Right, I think so. I think he did. Yeah, in one of his first ever games for Fleetwood in a management purpose. Jed Thomas comes in. Ross, let's be honest, we all thought Brown was finished, but proved as all wrong. I think the Rodgers era was when he started doing that deep role, the deeper role, sitting, sweeping up, playing it easy, and it kind of rejuvenated him. I know, and that's that 10 season, he even admitted himself he was a bit too slow in that, but up until that, he was excellent.
I mean, I have to agree with you. I thought Scott Brown by far played his best football under Brendan Rodgers. And I think Brendan Rodgers done the right thing straight away before he was even announced at Celtic. He brought, I think it might have been London, I'm not sure, but he got Scott Brown down to wherever, had a meal with him, had a meeting, told him what his vision was, told him what he wanted him to be in terms of still be the captain, be the leader, and drive the team on. And Scott Brown, like all the players that are playing under Ange now, bought into everything that Brendan Rodgers said. And it helps that Brendan Rodgers was coming off the back of being Liverpool manager. But, I mean, he's a class act, Brendan Rodgers, in terms of like management skills and stuff, if you like. Maybe didn't leave Celtic in a class way, but you have to say, Willie touched on it there. James Forrest was for me. I like James Forrest, but again, Brendan Rodgers took him to another level, and he took a lot of players that Ronny Deila had. They were performing not bad. They were winning leagues, obviously, which is your bread and butter, but they couldn't quite get the trebles. And I know a couple of refereeing decisions, he maybe would have got one treble, but Brendan Rodgers took Ronny Deila's team. He obviously laid the foundations, but you needed somebody to take the players and bring out what they had in them. Ronny Deila couldn't do it. Brendan Rodgers did. And Scott Brown, like I say, he bought into everything. He bought into all that. And because he did, all the players bought in along with him. And they followed. That's what Scott Brown made people do, follow.
He did. He was an absolute leader. Walking about in Moscow, minus 59, whatever it was, in a t-shirt. Like, what's going on in that guy's head? Although I thought he let his character slip when he said he only had the bald head to kind of persona himself as a hard man. Keep the bald head, Brownie. And we all love you.
That's what I do as well. I could grow mine out if I wanted.
But like, I think, what is it, 22 major honours he's had with him in his Celtic career?
Madness, man.
Round about that. 9 consecutive league titles, 4 consecutive trebles. I mean, like, to be fair, like, he's a club legend, and I think the statue's not far away. What do you think?
I've said in tributes before, I don't see why there shouldn't be. He's up there with some of the greatest we've ever had. I think he should be up there with the icons of the club. I don't think anybody's won more silverware than his. Definitely not as a captain anyway, I wouldn't imagine. And yeah, he's just iconic at the club. I really, really don't see why there shouldn't be any sort of honour like that. There's definitely no another captain out there that's won 4 trebles on the trot. He was magnificent as a captain, especially to lead the team the way he did and bring the guys in and bring the guys through it. Everybody always talks about it, and his loyalty as well. We need to talk about, like, he came out to say himself after his Celtic career was done that he had options at Spurs and Newcastle, but Celtic stood by him when he was at his lowest, and he was going to stand by them, and that's what he did. And that doesn't happen in football nowadays. Even the diehards, as we've seen recently, or more recently with Rodgers, who was a fan, obviously, when he was younger, and for heartbreaking for me. But I mean, Katie's another one. I know it's a big opportunity, but he's another one I thought would have stayed for life. And it's loyalty in football it just doesn't exist nowadays, like it did in the past. And I think he's got to be commended for that as well. And I mean, like we say, you look back now, I mean, there's guys that did leave to go down south, and they'll be sitting retired now with their feet up, and there's not much in their cabinet. And Scott Brown's got about 4 rooms in his house fully. What he's done in his career, and I think you've got to applaud him for that.
Yeah, it's 4 rooms in his house spare with El Hasdoof and Joey Barton, and 2 rooms each. They're sitting there, they can't come out. Andrew McLaughlin comes in. I know a few folk who want to burn out or stripped up the captaincy after the kebab incident on the street. Again, that does, I mean, we're all human. I think sometimes these incidents can be blown out of proportion. He had a kebab sitting on his honkers. We've all done it. After a night out, we've been lying somewhere with a half-eaten kebab all over the face. You know, it's just being human. Who really cares about it? But I know the big uproar, the record and papers like that, Ross, were all over it. Picture, front spread. You know what I mean? It was one of these things about Brownlie added to those other issues that he probably didn't need at that time. But like I said to Willie, just to kind of round it off, as Celtic portrayed it when he was leading, captain, leader, legend, and that's pretty much how you sum him up.
Aye, I can't. There's not really much else I can add to that. We've obviously waxed lyrical about him there for a wee bit. While he's pouring a pint, and
I thought he was
really
farting.
loud.
I thought he was literally. I thought he had to leave the screen to fart. What's going on?
But aye, there's no much more I can say about Scott Brown. He was an absolute legend. He is an absolute legend. What I will say though is that comment about Scott Brown was Peter Grant, couldn't he be, or whatever it was, I can't remember exactly. But then we're talking about like statues for Scott Brown, etc. And I get it. I do get that. Like, you can't argue with the medals he's won and stuff like that. You look at Paul McStay. Was Scott Brown a better player than Paul McStay? If Paul McStay had been the captain, and like, if he'd been the captain in Brown's era and Brown been the captain in Paul McStay's era, how would we be looking at? Because nobody's asking for a statue of Paul McStay. But
no, I don't think he would. I think if he was in Paul McStay's area, I don't think I'd be saying that. But I mean, with the titles and the trophies he's won and he was captain, I think
I'm not trying to take it away from him, by the way.
No, it's a fair point.
Because Paul McStay was an unbelievable player. He didn't win the trophies that Scott Brown won. He's a far better player than Scott Brown. But it's just your sort of, no luck. It's just when you're born, it's timing. Scott Brown came in at Celtic at the right time. It was the right time for Scott Brown, and eventually it was the right time for Celtic and Scott Brown, and he became the captain, and he did what he did.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe a statue's too much. Let's just name the bar after him that they've just built in there.
Yeah, yeah, that could be. Well, I mean, the whole kebab incident, maybe not, Willie. But like, to be fair to the Browney himself, I was listening to his press conference and stuff, and I'm loving, to be honest, all the hype around the Hydro and stuff. Like, he deserves it. Him and Lustig and being a part of that team, all the honours they won together, and I found it quite interesting when him kind of talking about his predecessor, Callum McGregor here, that he said that McGregor's addicted to Celtic day in, day out. And one of the reporters, I think, asked him about, there was people talking about maybe buying someone in or that type of stuff, but he knew from the get-go that this guy's going to be next to nine for the captaincy. Sometimes you would think players say that just because they're in that role now and all that type of stuff, not exactly telling the truth. But for me, Brownie's being honest here. Callum McGregor has took that captain role on, brung it to his own game, and just like Brownie himself, is just leading by pure example on that pitch with the Postecoglou team.
Absolutely, what a job he's done, and it's interesting he said that, because when he first came into the squad, even the first couple of years, I would never have said he was. When he came under Dylan and he was playing the wing and stuff, I don't know if I would have said he's captain material at that point. But I mean, the career's similar to Broony's in a way, because he was a dynamic midfielder, burst forward, got goals, strong, all the rest of it, energy, and he's kind of drifted further and further back, and he's sitting in that kind of quarterback role now, and he starts every attack, and just everything goes through him. And by the sounds of things, he's doing just as good a job of making sure the players and whoever comes in knows what Celtic's about. And if you're playing for that shirt, it's not just your job. You're playing for the fans, you're playing for the club, the history, all the rest of it. He's absolutely taken on what Broony has and ran with it. And I don't think we've, testament to Calmac, I don't think we've actually missed Broony in that sense. I thought, like I said, when he kind of left, I said that at the time that it was absolutely crazy that we let him go, because the club was in turmoil at the time, and whoever was coming in, whatever manager it was or whoever else it was, we needed somebody in there that was a steady head, like a Tommy Burns that was a stalwart and knew what the club was about and could explain. But I mean, Calmac's absolutely taken it, ran on and done more. I thought he was a dead cert to be the captain, but I mean, he surprised me. I thought he would do a good job and lead by example, but he doesn't just do that. He's, absolute complete. And again, he's one of our own, and we always love to see one of our own come in and I mean, what a job he's doing. You can't I think everybody underestimates it. He's doing an absolutely tremendous job, and I think the biggest compliment you could pay him is in that regard with the leadership. I'm not talking about the playing ability or anything like that, because I think it's, well, I would say Calmack's a far better player. I'm talking about the leadership and the rest of it around the club. That's the biggest compliment I can play him. I can pay Calmack, is we've not actually missed Broony in that sense, because he's absolutely taken it and ran with it.
I mean, to be fair, I was probably, I know I was different from your thought there, Willie, back in when we done our early podcast when Broony was in the midfield. I was adamant that he had to go. Not in a bad way, I just knew he was finished and he couldn't quite keep up with the game, and Aberdeen came in for him and his friend Stephen Glass with him as a coach, and I think that was the perfect match for him. To come to the comments, Patrick McLaughlin, McGregor's the best midfielder to come through our ranks since Paul McStay. Red Scotland, good to see you, Red, in the chat. Broony could only be alive when he was alive, and for me, he was among our greatest ever captains, regardless of the era involved. Red Scotland again, Calmack will be a similar legend, in my opinion. It's interesting because remember the shouts when we were talking about this, were also about who could be captain. I'm pretty sure one of Usins, forgive me, was mentioning Julian in that breath, captaincy, and it was you. Never, please.
Fine, man.
I don't want to say it, but you said it at that time. Did you not see it in Calmack that he could be captain just around that time?
I have to be honest and say probably not at the time. Don't get me wrong. I felt Callum McGregor had been an excellent player up to that point when we were talking about. I thought he was technically really good. I still think he's technically a better player than Scott Brown. I think there's no doubt about that. But did I think he could be that voice in the dressing room, that sort of go-to figure? I have to be honest. I didn't think he could be. I felt like Willie's alluded to earlier, and I know he's a midfielder. You want your captain to be a centre half or a midfielder. I'm exactly like that. But in terms of a midfielder, now the game's changed. But in terms of a midfielder, always in my head, if a midfielder's going to be a captain, he's like an enforcer, if you like a Roy Keane, like a Scott Brown, guys like that, Patrick Vieira. These are all the guys that I grew up watching. They were midfield enforcers, and I know Patrick Vieira had a bit more guile than the other two we're talking about there, but he was still an enforcer. He was still that guy. If you were going to have a scrap on the pitch, if it was going to be MD, he would have your back. I didn't see Callum McGregor as that type. But he's proved me totally wrong. And within the first, I don't know, couple of months of him being the captain, you watched him in interviews and that, and I think I was starting to really, like, after that, think, I could be wrong here, because the way he was carrying himself. And it's been proven over the last 18 months to 2 years. He absolutely is.
You still want Julian. You want him back in the club. You want that on
By the way, I would have kept Julian. Not so much now, because we've evolved, we've moved on. But at the time, we had loads of debates. I thought Julian was a good centre half. I did. But anyway, digressing a wee bit there. That's. But Callum McGregor has surprised me. And he's an absolute brilliant captain, I have to say. I was going to say something else there, but I can't remember what it was. But he's first class. He is. That's what I was going to say. So, in terms of the comparisons with Brown, obviously Brown's had more longevity as the captain. He's won more trophies. I think Callum McGregor could win as many. Well, he's not far off it now, but as captain, I mean, in terms of winning trophies as a captain, I think what he's laughing at.
Someone's calling this the Armoy podcast because you two are bald.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
I'm nowhere near Armoy. I need to shave my head tomorrow.
Have you not seen that song that we want to team for the Armoys? It's like a filter and they're all eggheads.
What are you talking about, sir?
No, that's what I think that's what Antonio means. If you give in correctly, go ahead, Ross.
Is that your dream? Is that your dreaming?
Aye.
Yeah, you don't want to know my dreams. Well, you sent me the picture of my dreams before we come on earlier.
Right.
Go ahead, Ross.
What was I saying? I was doing like the comparison with Callum McGregor and Brown. This is took a turn. Aye, so, like I said, Callum McGregor's technically better than Scott Brown. As captain, I think Callum McGregor stays, which I think he will. He could quite easily reach the amount of trophies that Scott Brown won as captain. Mm-hmm. And there is slight differences, obviously, on the pitch in that Scott Brown was more in your face. I don't think Callum McGregor does that, but Callum McGregor controls the game. He takes control of the game in a different way in terms of his ability on the ball. Brown done it vocally and in your face, like that sort of like strength, hardness, if you like. But then I look at them when they were getting interviewed, and I'm sure it was Wally touched on earlier about how Scott Brown, he always picked the right moment to sort of like have a dig, stick the knife in. I don't think, whereas Callum McGregor, I don't think he does that. I think he as much as I love Scott Brown and I laughed, sometimes when he done, there was wee like digs in that in interviews. Sometimes I cringed. I never do that with Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor is, again, it's that wee difference in time. It's players have changed, and you don't see many Scott Browns now. But Callum McGregor carries himself really well, and he always says the right things, and he never wants to have needless digs. He had opportunities to do it after the cup final there, and he didn't take it. All he said was, "What are you laughing at?"
Sorry, no, go ahead. It's not you.
You're thinking about that picture I sent him.
Yes, aye. All he said was basically like, we sort of do our talking on the pitch, but move on to Willie because I'm done here, man.
No, sorry, Ross. I was thinking about what John said. About the plug hole. It just came into the head.
No, that was very good.
Brown Warrior, before you speak, I want to bring this to you as well. I think this is a good point. I've been banging the Callum McGregor drum since he got back from England. A blind man could see his potential, never hides the games, always available for a pass, and regardless of pressure from the opposing teams. And I think Brown as well alluded to that fact, saying he earned his stripes by going to Notts County. And also, I think that's a good point for younger players, like, for example, Maggie Johnson, that his career might not be over, come back and bet in again. You could actually take your game on another level. Callum McGregor's done that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not getting game time, then the best thing to do is to go and... You seen it?
Sorry.
Fucking hell. Nobody's got any idea where there's no reference.
I know.
No reference whatsoever either. I know, you can't even say that. I'm a picture of my dick in the bath, but... I think Ross was right about and Callum McGregor had ample opportunity in the cup final to come out afterwards, but all he said was, listen, and in the lead up, it was, listen, we're concentrating ourselves, that's all we're going to do. I don't think Broony would have done that at the time, but listen, he went away in loan, earned his stripes, came back. Ronnie's everybody thinks we're joking to Ronnie. Fair play to Ronnie for giving him his chance, and he's been an absolute stalwart, and he's been the centre of everything we've done since. I can't commend him enough. I reckon we'll be in. Hopefully we're still going in 5, 6, 7, 8 years' time, and I reckon we'll be doing the exact same thing we're doing now for Broony, but for Mr. Callum McGregor.
No, for
hopefully
talking about fucking taking photos of dicks and bats. No last to tomorrow.
Oh no! Honestly, it's that dirty plug hole. It's a dirty plug hole.
I hate to do what I did in the quiz and just share the picture on the screen, Roy.
No, don't share the picture on the screen.
Right,
I'll tell you what, I'll not be listening back to this podcast at my work.
Fucking shambles when I see it on my
it was only a matter of time. Let's be fair. Everyone knows that we're like on a Friday. It's all good. It's all good. But oh shit! Callum McGregor, that guy. I mean, to be fair, Ross as well. I mean, all the comments are agreeing. And Robert Davey must have been a great weekend. Well, all the comments are agreeing with Callum McGregor and the team. And I thought, like Broony said, I actually thought this was interesting. He was asked what player he liked to play with. He picked Hatate, he picked Jota, and who was the third one? He picked another one. Was Joe Hart?
I honestly can't mind, but when you say they two, I can't. I watched the bloody interview, Dave. Can't mind.
Here's one
Maybe
for
they
you.
can remind us in the comments.
Here's one for you. Would it be Scott Brown, McGregor, and Hatate, or would it be a Scott Brown +1 without McGregor? Who would start in that midfield three if Scott Brown was in his prime here?
I think
at Celtic.
I think if he was in his prime, it would be Brown in the 6, Hatate, McGregor.
McGregor
Really?
McGregor in front of Hatate.
Aye.
I think so. Certainly.
I think McGregor's. You talked about Broony's best years was under Rodgers. I think you could argue McGregor's best years was under Rodgers. He scored a barry load of goals under Rodgers in that number 10 role, getting forward, and some of the big goals against Rangers. He scored a big goal in the cup final against Motherwell and stuff as well. I thought he was electric. The 2 years or so that Rodgers was in. So I think you could argue that he was. And you always talk about him. Well, that's true. You always talk about. On this podcast, a lot of the guys always talk about how they prefer McGregor. Mine's maybe changed now because he's been electric in this number 6. Cheers, Jed. And
Jed.
But everybody always said they prefer him in that kind of box-to-box role or further forward. I thought he was electric in the 2 years under Rodgers, so I would definitely have Brown, Hatate, and him.
Well, what I was going to say.
Interesting.
Like I would probably have that as well. Brown. And then Hatate and McGregor. And I was going to ask this actually, but the reason I would probably have that 3 is because going into the Champions League next season, right? If we had the squad, obviously we'll probably sign other people, right? Who that will be, I don't know. But if it was the squad we've got currently, certainly away from home, it'll be bedded in a bit more. I think you might see Ange going with Iwata, Hatate and McGregor further forward in the Champions League next year, if and when we're there. So that's similar to that kind of setup. I'm not saying that Iwata is Brown. We don't know that, but he's, by all accounts, a more defensive-minded midfielder. So that would make us hopefully a wee bit more solid. I think he wanted Gucci to be that guy. It never really happened for him. Injuries, etc. Maybe
Ross is just copying my Dan Orowitz podcast from earlier, word for word here.
Was he saying that earlier?
Literally, word for word what you're saying.
Was he? By the way, I must be saying that subconsciously because I honestly can't remind of that.
No, I'm only winding up. This is funny.
Did he genuinely say that?
he mentioned that Gucci would have been that guy, obviously, until he broke his ankle again. He broke his ankle again with his new club. Shameful, So do you think Ross in the you're harsh as fuck? Do you think in the Champions League, Ross, that it'd be Iwata and McGregor? Is that what you said? Sorry.
No, Iwata, Hatate, and McGregor.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Definitely, say away from home. I think it was evident that we needed to be more solid. We were too open at times. We get caught out. It was well documented. I mean, I don't know if that's the answer, but I don't know. But he might even change the formation depending on who he brings in. He might obviously still keep the same idea, but I think I'm fucking paraphrasing fucking Dan again. I'll just leave it.
No, I get what you mean. Brian Warrior comes in, Willie, in regards to, I think we need to go for double pivot with a single 10 in front. I think he means probably in European football. I think that might be the way to go. Giving the Wada a wee bit more solid in there with McGregor or Hatate and McGregor pushed up or whatever.
I don't know. It's a fair point, but I don't think Andrew would do that. Don't think he'll change his style. And he's not got what Ross says is. That is not an enforcer for me either. He's still a more ball playing, a deep lying playmaker, if you like. And I just don't think that's Andrew's style. I don't think he'll get. And I don't think he would buy anybody in to come in and do that as well. And I think as long as Andrew's around, Calmack's going to be the number 6. I think.
Yeah.
And I just think. I think Moy and O'Reilly have been absolutely tremendous this year. I know what you're saying about we need to watch what we're doing in Europe, but I just think it would be harsh to drop one of the two. And I think we've had a fantastic season so far. And if we were just a bit more clinical, we'd be sitting having a different discussion this time. And I just think if we do the same thing this time around with a slightly better squad, a bit more experience, but we're more clinical this year, I think we can do far better than we did last season. But I do take on what people are saying. I understand that we need to sometimes kind of protect ourselves a wee bit because we're far too thingy on the counter at times. But like seeing these games, it's hell for leather for the first hour, and if we get a goal or two at a time, then I think that's a possibility that we can do that. But I don't see him doing it, and I love the rock and roll football we're playing. I just want us to continue to do that.
Well, when I was speaking to Dan Orowitz today, if anyone hasn't watched it, it was live this morning at 10. You can catch up whenever if you want. The Japanese journalist. You did watch it, and you paraphrased the majority of it. But me and Dan were speaking about Postecoglou said in January about possibly looking at change of formations because with Marinos, the team he was with in Japan, he played a 3-5-2. Dan was pointing out to me the fact you've got Kobayashi, you've got Iwadana can play centre back. There's plenty of flexibility to play that formation. So I think it's a good thing to watch out for if there's a change of system for European football. But Alistair Jack, fair play to you, big man, and I hope you're well. Seeing your Twitter post the other night. Hope all's well with you. You're welcome on here anytime. He has come in, dropping bombs, Ross. Random question. Does Nakamura get into this team?
No.
Oh, straight off the bat, not even a... No?
I don't think he does. No, I don't think he's mobile enough.
He's not got the energy.
Not got the energy.
What position are you playing him? No, you play him on the right?
Well, he's not getting a game, so I'm not playing him anywhere.
Right, that's it.
I reckon if Naka was in the team, he'd be playing a David Turnbull and coming on the last half an hour, 20 minutes of games, popping up there.
I don't think he's got the end.
I think you could put him in the... You could put him in the 10 role, I think, quite easily.
You probably could, he's
but
not ahead of Aaron Moy. Aaron Moy's getting the Ballon d'Or next year.
But I see Nakamura as that he's a luxury player, and I said it last week. We've not got luxury players. Jota could easily be a luxury player in our team. The way he won the ball back against Hearts, what game was it? Was it the Saturday game or the whatever game it was? He won the ball back and then played it, and it was the game at Parkhead, I think. But
Alistair's throwing bombs here, boys. Nakamura face Jota.
Wow. Shit bombs.
Oof. That's well, that's for people to say. But I think for me personally, if you have Nakamura on the right, Kyogo for the middle, Jota on the left, that's sexy.
Can't take my head out the side.
I think it's the balance goes because Kyogo and who did you say on the right?
Nakamura.
And who on the other side?
Jota.
See, Kyogo and Jota are fast. I think Nakamura would be like here when they two are up here, and then there'd be nobody ghosting in at the back post because he'd just be trying to hit a free kick.
Every time somebody says Nakamura, I just think of that boy. I said, Shuki Nakamura, you fucking dough ball.
Oh no, that's horrible. See that wee kid's reaction? It broke my mate. I was fuming. I was fucking fuming. I wanted to find that guy and kick his bollocks in.
I was the opposite.
Just the way the team reacted.
I was the opposite. I was like, you should have punched the kid for not being able to pronounce it.
Oh, no.
If that was the case, we'd punch Stephen every podcast.
Well, maybe that's why he resonated with the boy.
Every time I comment in our group chat, it's like, "Shut up, you fud." I knew where he's coming from. But coming to the comments here, Alistair Jack, just to go back to that, he replaced Jota, Red Scotland, Patrick Madrick on the left. Nakamura was better than most of our current players. Stoned Outlaw, free kicks. Cheers, Stephen, getting there, pal. Great to hear that, Alistair. Great you're in the comment section tonight. Brown Warrior with a left field one. Perlo played the same role, but with an enforcer alongside him at Milan. Normally Gattuso, Awada could fulfil the same role as Celtic in a 2-1 setup rather than the less defensive 1-2 we have now. Unbelievable. You're like a tactician, Brian. You come up with some theories, man. I love it. I do love it.
That's a great point. We'll move on. It's a definitely great point.
It is a good point.
I just don't think I don't think Awada's an enforcer. I don't think we've got that in the team. If we assign somebody, then I'd be all for it. But I just don't see anybody playing that role on the side.
I'm not looking for him to be an enforcer, to be fair. I'm looking for him to be that guy.
Uragini could do it.
Oh, not an enforcer where he fucking goes flying into tackles and things like that, but just that guy that shores it up, maybe just sits back a wee bit when the rest of them are bombing forward. You're going to have Hatate, McGregor in your front three to go and do that. Just have him just sit in the halfway line. When we're pushed up, sit in the halfway line, protect. Aye, the fullbacks as well, aye. just get three of us to cover the fullbacks. I don't know, man. Thank God I'm not the manager. I'd just be paraphrasing Dan Orlowitz in the changing room.
Coat pictures on the wall.
Coats on in the hall.
Patrick McLaughlin comes in. Boric, McGrain, Carter Vickers, Melby, Tierney, Lambert, Petrov, McStay, Razovic, Larson, Nakamura. That team would kick ass in this formation. I think any team with great players would kick ass in the formation Postecoglou plays because it's rock and roll football, like Willie said. But we'll move on to some current affairs. I don't know how we got from Scott Brown to Free Awadas in the midfield. I will. That happened in legend. Unbelievable. Well, there'll be free dicks in the bath and Ross joints.
3 Awadas and 3 twats.
And 3 dirty plug holes.
Right, that's
disgusting.
That was too far, Stephen.
You're thinking stuff. I mean, literal plug holes, but okay. We'll move on to some current update Celtic news, and that's the Scottish Cup draw. The semi-final, we've got the team across the city, Sevco, Rangers. Motherwell, apparently no. No, but there was some news breaking today about the allocation again, right? And there's different stories about this, and there's no fans now, no away fans for the last 2 fixtures in the respective grounds, right? Apparently, Celtic put it to them that they wanted the original allocation back due to safety concerns for the fans. They rejected that, and then Celtic pulled the plug and said, no, we're not sending our fans in. Then Rangers retaliated. Again, I think, me personally, they started this shit. I have no objection to the old allocation coming back. I thought it added to the game. The atmospheres were even better than they are now. And it needs to go back. There needs to be a proper discussion held. They need to stop wetting the fucking pram every time we beat them. Take their beatings like professionals if they can. I'm sure Michael Beale could come up with some mad quote about it anyway. Do you not think that that's the way forward in this situation? Instead of doing 700 and then cutting it towards the end of the season?
Who's that to?
You, Willie.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. Like, it's just utter nonsense now. It's like fucking children going back and forth at high school, and it sounds like Rangers are now like, it's my ball, you're not playing, I'm going home. The lampposts are on side to go home. The full allocation needs to just get put back, and it just needs to stop all this nonsense. And by the way, see, as much like we obviously want fans, we want fans away there, and I want their fans to come as well. That's what we're meant to be, the biggest derby in world football. And what is that with both sets of fans in there showing their passion? It's just nonsense. But to me, having no fans to what was that? What's the allocation? 500, 800 or something? It's been for
750, I think.
There's not much difference between that and fucking zero, is there? So I'm like, I think in this instance, I think fair play Celtic. I think they've got the right to ask the question, and if they're not, then just pull the plug themselves and say, you know what, fuck you then. And hopefully this sort of sparks the debate again, and the powers that be use their noggins and actually use their common sense and stop all this fucking nonsense and just let fans enjoy the football again. Because that's what's about.
Yeah.
See this crap. Because that's what I hate in life in general. Working in an office, and there's a lot of women in that's not interested in football, but their first thought is, "Oh, see all that? It's all sectarians." I'm like, it's fucking not. Most of us love our football club. It's instilled in us since we're children. That last derby game, I had all the boys up. It was just magic. Sitting in the moment thinking, like, this is what it's about. It's not all that fucking nonsense that everybody outside the Celtic and Rangers thinks it is. It's passionate fans that there's a minority, as there is in every fan base. But it's just fans that are passionate about their club and want to fucking support their team. And it's the biggest fucking derby in the world. So stop all this nonsense and just, that's it, exactly, mate. 100%. A small minority ruining it for the rest of us, and it's just nonsense. Just fucking concentrate on the football and let us enjoy it.
Yeah, I seen today on Twitter and stuff about the 700 fans. Apparently, the last game at Ibrox, there was Buckfast battles getting free in. There was coins getting chucked in, and it's a corner. Man. Yeah, you're trapped in a corner. Yeah, and you're both sides of you're covered, and that is going to happen. So do you think that, like Ross, like Willie said, I think Celtic are 100% right in what they've done. But again, get back to the old allocation, and Antonio's come in again. What was the difference between now and 2018? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Listen, right. See if they were going to go to the 750, which they did, right? That's fair enough, right? I don't agree with it, but it's fair enough if that's what they wanted to do, right? But for to then stick the 750 fans in that wee corner below two top tier stands. Who made that decision, right? Because anybody with half a brain knows that they are sitting ducks in there. And if Celtic are winning, they're going to get stuff rained down on them. It's why anybody, no matter how much hate you've got for the other club, why anybody would throw an object down on top of other fans for a high height is beyond me. There could be kids, there is kids in there. It's ridiculous, right? But if they're going to keep the 750 allocation, why not give them a section in the stand where we had before, but obviously a smaller area, where there I don't know how much seats. I don't know if it would take just part
you got off these toys again.
I don't know how much seats it would take, but even if they had it narrow enough so you could go up both tiers, I don't know how they would work it.
See the actual full allocation. Like, see, if they're going to shorten it, they should leave the full allocation but empty seats. So there's 3 or 4 fucking sections each side that are totally empty with posts in between, then nobody can get anywhere near them.
But just don't put them in that corner. It makes absolutely no sense. And for Rangers to decide, Celtic cut Rangers allocation, but they didn't put them in. I know it's a different stadium, it's different setup and stuff. They didn't put them in it's just a tiny wee triangle. They've put them in, and it's just beggars belief that you would put them there. It's just silly. It's ridiculous. But for me, no everybody will agree, but I would love to see it go back to the original allocation.
I agree.
And I'll tell you why. The semi-final, the cup final there, both sets of fans in the stadium, nobody sitting ducks, that atmosphere. I wasn't there, but you could feel it through the telly coming through. And even, say, I've heard Ali McCoy talking and Talk Sport and stuff about the atmosphere, and he alluded to, obviously, that final, and he says there's nothing better than that. And there isn't. I've been at countless Celtic and Rangers games at Parkhead, a few at Ibrox, all when it was the old allocation. I've never been when it was 750. But I've been at Ibrox. I was at Ibrox the game after we beat Boa Vista in the semi-final to qualify for the final. Went to Ibrox, I think we won 2-1. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, that that stand. Momo Salah was along for me with the bloody sombrero on at the end of the game and all that. Unbelievable. But the atmosphere in that ground that day was electric.
Yep.
I've been at Parkhead and I sat right next to the Rangers fans in the Lisbon Lions stand behind the goals. Rangers beat us 4-2. Ugo Ekeog, I'm sure he scored an overhead kick. It was absolutely horrible. We were so close to him. It was either the worst or best place to sit. And again, it was absolutely horrible. But the atmosphere, the to and fro with the fans, it just adds to the whole spectacle, the whole day, the experience. And I know some people will say we beat them 3-0 at Parkhead and they weren't there to keep them out and all the rest of it. And it was unbelievable that night, the atmosphere as well. But for me, football is about two teams, and both teams should have a certain amount of fans in the ground. Unless they've done something really bad where the fans have to be kept out, which is obviously extreme circumstances. But in general, obviously your home fans are going to have a bigger allocation unless you're Celtic and Rangers going to in Rugby Park or something like that. But generally, that's what it is. That's what football's about. And in any like sort of walk of life or any entertainment thing where two teams are playing each other, you've got fans for one and fans for the other. It's for me, it needs to go back to that. They need to grow up. We went through the 90s, absolute torture, getting beat off them at Parkhead and all the rest of it. They done huddles when the Hugh Dallas game where he got hit with the coin and all that. It was horrendous. But we never cut their allocation and like basically spat the dummy. That's what they've done. We beat them 5-1 at Ibrox. They cut our allocation. Couldn't they take it? Couldn't they take us going there and partying? Oh, we're not having that anymore. Because that's what they do. We're not like that. But sometimes you just have to say fuck you. And because like if you're got to do that. But it needs resolved soon because I would like it to go back to how it was. Because in the main, we beat them and I want us to laugh at them in the stadium.
Sports entertainment. Do you think if, for example, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, Stuart Robertson, their chief exec, and Ross Wilson made a group chat and one of them sent the bath picture, it would break the ice? I think it would be all right. Like I think they would get there in the end.
I think Adam and our group chat, we'll sort it out.
I think it was in the picture we'd break the ice. Tell you that.
I mean, see, I agree, Ross. Like, I really do agree. When you watch the games back in 2000s up to 2018, whatever it was electric. And whether it be at Ibrox, whether it be at Parkhead, that they brought their allocation, we brought ours. It was unbelievable. And the atmospheres are still great today, obviously, when we win and beat them. But like you said, selfish point of view, we want to win these titles in front of their fans and shove it right up them. I think that's pretty much what we all want to do here.
See the thing with it as well, right? It's not a situation where they've given us a 6,000 allocation and we're wanting a 8 or 10,000 allocation. They're giving us fuck all anyway. Like it's not as if we're not losing it. 700 fans is next to nothing different to 0 fans. So it's a perfect and ample opportunity to go, you know what, stick it right up your arse. And then
but it's really missing out the marketing side of things, isn't it? It's so short-sighted, and if you want to
derby in the world, Stephen, and you can't even get fucking base sets of fans in the
ridiculous.
It's madness, and you look at the situation. I want to come to the comments. There's some great points in here. Red Scotland singing about slaying my forefathers is enough for me. Let them back into fully tooled up Celtic Park. Brown Warrior, madness, isn't it? Hugh Dallas tried to buy Rangers for the same coin in 2012. Wow. Stoned Outlaw. The Hearts fans are the same, if not worse. Paddy McLaughlin's confident that they'll want us back in. Can you actually imagine a booze license being allowed at Ibrox or Tynecastle? Some people, they're oh fuck, I'm not reading that out. I mean, some people. I'll be getting a letter from YouTube in the morning. That's it done. Some people are in agreement that the allocation should be up, and I get what people are saying, the safety issue. But like you said, Ross, when you had that allocation, there was cops everywhere. Stewards were separating them. There was gaps in between them. And if you have that wee corner, Alistair Jack said it, getting piss chucked at you in seats. That's not safe, and we kids will all get hurt, and it's just not good enough. And let's talk about the draw, Willie. Michael Beale comes out of the game with another comment. His first defeat in 9 derby games. He's confident, he's raring to go, and I really think if we turn up and we play them, if I arrive on the boat to Stranraer and you pick me up, I think we'll I will annihilate them, and we'll destroy them morally as well.
I see the more and more he goes on, the more I fucking love it. Bring it on. You just keep digging yourself a bigger hole and making yourself look a fool. We talked about it earlier on. It's exactly the same as what Joey Barton did when he came up. Beale's the same. Stop talking nonsense. Do your stuff in the park. That's why I love Calmac when he said that. Listen, there's a lot of noise going about. We'll do our stuff in the park, and I'm sure we'll prove it again. I was hoping we would have missed them. And got them in the final again. Imagine winning a league and then losing 2 finals to your arch rivals. But
whoa,
I mean, that would have been magic. But listen, it'll be another great day. I can't wait. All the boys round again. I have a magic day with all my pals watching the best team in the land, and I love that we all share. It's just magic. You can only get days like that, and then you just got to cherish every one of them because you're not here long, and these are the things. These are the days you look back on. The last few years, especially with you guys and getting and spending the time with you and watching the games. It's just magic. I can't wait again, especially nowadays. I can't wait. I just hope that. I don't hope. I've got a very good feeling that we'll do the business again, and Michael Beale will look very, very, very stupid again.
What's he been saying? Like, has he said comments after the draw?
He came out and he was obviously questioning it. He was like, well, I only suffered my first defeat in 9 derby games, referencing when Gerrard was actually manager. So he's an absolute, he's a roaster.
He's actually probably contradicting himself. He looks like a fuck. He's actually, because he always bangs on about how, well, actually, since I've been in the door, we were 9 points behind. We're still 9 points behind. So it's pretty much it's not my fault. And then now he goes, before I was here, I won however many derbies as well. You're contradicting yourself, you fucking absolute watermelon.
Everything Michael Beale says is for the betterment of Michael Beale. You know about Rangers. He's covering his arse at every turn because he knows when it goes tits up, he can say, well, I tell you this.
It feels like to me he's a man under pressure already, talking like that, trying to back himself up with stupid comments and coming out in every press conference, fucking giving the big man, saying he didn't hurt the 9 points and first defeat in 9 games. It's embarrassing, and I think some of their support probably are cringing, Ross, like you said, with all them gimmicks that makes you cringe when you hear them catchphrases. But the game itself, I mean, it's a game we're all going to look forward to. We're obviously playing them beforehand in the League of Parkhead, and the luxury, can you call it that, of playing a League One club or a Championship team in the final. Don't want to underestimate them too much. I don't want to be disrespectful, but is the treble on? Is the travel going to be talked about even more? What do you think?
I'm wary because last season we were talking Last season we were talking. It was coming up to about this time of the season. We were sitting top. I think we'd got to the top. We were at the top of the league at this point in the season. We'd won the League Cup, and we were going to be playing Rangers in the semi-final of the Cup. And I said then that I expected a treble because of how we were playing, but I would be satisfied with a double, and I wouldn't be too annoyed if we didn't get the treble. Transpired we didn't get the treble. Rangers beat us on the day. That could happen again quite easily if we don't turn up. But if Celtic turn up on the day, Celtic, the last 2 games they turned up for the first half in the semi-final, and they could have been out of sight. I don't care what anybody says. I've heard Rangers supporters saying that game was really close. It wasn't a close game. It's come for a 2-1 victory, as you're going to see, in my opinion. But it could have been more than 2-1, and especially towards the end. But we didn't play amazing that second half. I think we allowed Rangers to have the ball at times. But I think if we turn up, if we play like we played in that first sort of 20 minutes at Hearts, we've done it for halves, we've done it for the odd full game, but we've never brought it for a full game. But if we play, I don't know, if we play for an hour like we played that first 20 minutes against Hearts at Tynecastle, we'll absolutely destroy Rangers. in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good thing that we're playing them at Parkhead before that semi-final, because I think Rangers coming to Parkhead 9 points behind, which it looks like it probably will be. I think if Celtic go 12 points clear, which I expect them to beat Rangers at Parkhead, and I expect them to beat them comfortably, then we're 12 points in front of them going into a semi-final. Fully confidence. Rangers are coming into that semi-final off the back of 2 defeats against us. I can only see one winner, but again, you have to be very careful, because on the day, anything can happen. It's a semi-final at the National Stadium. But if you're looking at 2 teams on paper and the way both teams have performed throughout the season, obviously Rangers are on a bit of a run, they're still not playing the lively football that Celtic's playing, then you have to say Celtic, at the minute, they should go on and win the treble, but there's many variables that can stop that happening.
I totally agree. And Brown Warrior comes in. I've seen a lot of this. I heard a wee rumour they're having another cheeky wee share issue this month to pay the bills. Yeah, there's lots of rumours circulating because they haven't released their annual accounts yet. But Ross, go back to what you said. The treble, for me, I'd be disappointed if it doesn't happen. I think this is a golden nugget to get it and put it over the line. Rangers aren't the best at the moment. I expect us, like you said, to beat them comfortably at home. And I think it'll just lead to, I mean, if you look at their players too, Kent's out of contract, Morelos is out of contract. I think 6 or 7 first-team players are looking away or looking at their future. So again, I don't really see a massive issue here. I don't want to be kind of downgrading it, but I do get what you mean in terms of the National Stadium as a cup semi. Anything can happen. Paul Dad said could be start again, but Antonios has come in here. Summary: Broony and Callum talked to the uncomfortable after. Agreement to having 3 Awadas across the midfield would be the best starting team. then away fan allocation chat. Pretty well summed up, Antonio. So you can do my Twitter things from now on. That's 100%. You mentioned last season, Ross, the treble. You expected it because of how we were playing, right? This season for me, William, I think it's a given for how we're playing. If we don't get the treble, would you be majorly disappointed?
Yes.
Elaborate? No elaboration on nothing.
I just think we're playing the best football I've ever seen in my generation at Celtic Park, and I mean we played some great football under Rodgers and Tommy Burns and Martin O'Neill and the rest of it. But the actual football we're playing now is nothing like I've ever seen. We're absolutely blowing every team out the water. I've said it before, even like Hearts scored against us the other night. I feel like they could have scored 2 or 3, and I still would have had faith that we're going to win the game. That's how confident I'm in this team. I don't think that. I mean, like you say, there's obviously variables, but I think if we get to the final, I'd be majorly confident that we're going to bag the Scottish Cup. So it's the semi-final to get through. I don't think that the Rangers are a great side, to be honest with you. I think that I think the last 2 games that we've played against them, we've been under par and still came away without defeats. I think the 2 all league games they played a very high level for there, and we were below par for the draw, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I think I totally agree with Ross. I think that League Cup final could have finished. I know they had a chance or 2, but we had another 3 or 4 chances that we could have buried as well.
Haksabanovic.
Aye, Haksabanovic come through. Yeah. I just think that, like I said, it's rock and roll football, and I just can't see anybody. I can't see anybody in our path stopping our way to glory. But I've been wrong before. But the team, like I said, the team is electric now, and I think it's so exciting. I mean, some of the players we've got now are just. I said in previous podcasts in the transfer market that we can only sign a certain level or a certain ability, but I mean, the guys we're bringing in, they might be unknowns, but by God, some talent we've got.
Unknown gems that Postecoglou is are unearthing for us at the minute. Brown Warrior again comes in.
I honestly think that we could put a second 11 out for a full league season and finish in the top 2.
Aye, so yeah.
Definitely.
Brown Warrior, I think Martin Lee's team are too strong for this current side. The football may be better on the eye, but the competition isn't the best. I mean, struggled in Europe to win games. We spoke about that before. Alistair Jack, guys, I'll leave you with this: 5 trebles in 7 seasons would put 7 up in terms of trebles, unthinkable before Rodgers come in. 100%, Alistair. But what Brown Warrior said there, Ross, is kind of bringing me on to my next point. I don't know if you've seen. Did you manage to see what Craig Levine said?
It's gone down south and plowing money in the league and all the rest of it. He's a fucking sausage banger, by the way.
So Craig Levine, Ross, basically came out and he was interviewed about Celtic and Rangers going into the Premier League. And he said he would love that to happen only if they pump 50 million a season back into the SPFL. What do you think about that? They're suggesting, as William
50
said,
50 million.
Crackpot. Yeah, crackpot.
Craig Levine, fucking the guy that played Nay Striker in the Czech Republic. Get the fuck, pal.
Exactly. I'll way back and teach geography. Yeah, fucking garlic naan.
Would you take it though? Like in all seriousness, the chat seems to be coming back up. Would you take him down to England? Would you go? Yeah.
I would start for the bottom. I definitely would. I actually was listening. I listened to Talk Sport. It was Harry Redknapp was on the other day, and he said that he thinks, well, at the time when it was talked about for a while, he said that he would have took them, and he believes that they would do really well and they would be right up there challenging at the top after 4 or 5 years. Martin O'Neill was asked today when he was on, and he was on board with them going down. He says obviously not everybody would be, but it's for Celtic and Rangers to fulfil their full potential without losing the soul of being owned by a state. That's the only way I see us being able to fulfil our potential, is to be able to go down south. It would obviously be a few hard years. Rangers will know that better than most. But I think it would be well worth it in the end. I think we would get into that Premier League. But do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not, because Southampton's, Brighton's, I know they're doing well now, but they'll not always be flying high in 6th position. Their teams are not going to want Celtic and Rangers to go down south, because at some point they could take their Premier League place.
I think it's quite interesting having the chat. I know we spoke about it before, but like you said, Ross Martin Lee was speaking about it. Talksport, for some reason, do speak about it quite a lot, especially Simon Jordan, when the SPFL teams are brought up. And you look at it, Willie, I love having this conversation with people in work. They're not ignorant, right? But like a Manchester United fan or whatever, or a Chelsea fan, like, you wouldn't do it in England, you'd be relegated, you would go bust and all that. You know what I mean? It's that kind of arrogance that I don't like. I think Ross is right. If it done it properly and started in the Vanarama or whatever, National League South, with fucking Wealdstone Town and all them types of teams, and made that journey through the leagues, I think it'd be an absolute fairy tale, because I think we would do it season after season after season, and we'll get up there. And I know there is traditional people, and I'm going to say maybe like yourself, Willie, who would like to see that happen in terms of going down to England. I wasn't on the tune with it, but at the end of the day, my granddad's a big advocate of it. If there is a time and a place to do it. I mean, Harry Redknapp spoke about it recently. Like Ross said, Martin O'Neill spoke about it. There has to be an opportunity for this to be revisited, or even tried out with a cup competition. Like the Irish teams over here and the Northern Irish teams, they compete in the SPFL Trust Trophy, and they play like the likes of Queen's Park, play Linfield, or Alloa play Shamrock Rovers, for example, kind of the extreme one there. But there has to be some way we can get into some competition with these English teams to see how it goes.
It's not for me, I'll be honest. I wouldn't be wanting us to go down there.
How the fuck no, like?
I'm going to explain. Well, first of all, I'm a very patriotic Scot. I know that doesn't believe. I know that's like it's not got much relevance, but I just think we're Scottish and we shouldn't be going down there. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. It's like putting a skirt on your brother and calling him your sister. I just don't think it's right. I do believe if we went down there with the fan base and the rest of it, that after a number of years we should be or pronouns. Sorry, we don't discriminate here in the Endless Celts. I think if we did,
you managed to make that worse. You managed to make that worse.
I think if we did go down there, that after a number of years, obviously it wouldn't be happening straight away. But I reckon we most definitely could compete with the best, and and I think we could attract the greatest players in the world and all the rest of it. But I think somebody said there it's like selling your soul. For me, that would be my opinion. I just think it wouldn't sit right with me. I don't think we're Scottish. We're in the Scottish League, and that's who we should be representing. In my opinion, what you said there about like some sort of British Cup, I would be all for that. I mean, you could. I don't know if you would ditch the 2 League Cups, but you know what I mean. In place of that, maybe having a British Cup or something like that. I know they shouldn't have been it either, Alistair.
See, I wouldn't be on board with a British Cup.
No.
No, I like our domestic cup.
I'd be all up for that, but I wouldn't want us moving away.
It's like for me as well. I get what you're saying, right? But the SPFL, let's be honest with ourselves here, it's never going to get a big load of money. It's never going to, you know what I mean? It's never going to be invested in. The stadiums are all dilapidated. Facilities are going. And it's like we should be aiming higher. I love Scottish football. You know, guys. I've said it plenty of times before. I love watching whatever sports scene over match of the day, and I do. I'm not just saying that. I really do. Watching like Ross County play Hibs and stuff because the passion and rawness is still there. But I want Celtic to be the best version of Celtic, and it doesn't necessarily mean go down and selling your soul. It's going down and exploring new opportunities and new financial gain, new wealth, and new caliber player coming in.
See, when this whole Super League stuff nonsense came out, were you not right against all that?
No, I didn't. I asked the question: would people be for Celtic? I was on the fence for it. I wasn't against it.
I just think that a lot of people flew the handle off and said you're selling your soul to the devil with the Super League, and I just think that Celtic and Rangers going down south would be the exact same as that, in my opinion.
See, I don't think
for money and all the rest of it, and
I don't think they are, because the way I look at selling your soul is if one of these states, it's never going to happen, but if they took over Celtic, right? But, well, put it this way, right? If Celtic and Rangers went down south, I don't think that's selling your soul. I think that's taking an opportunity put in front of you to fulfil your potential.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of that, there's no guarantee that you're going to win the English Premier League, but getting there and giving yourself that opportunity to do better, and maybe do better in the Champions League and stuff like that. And obviously, I know cash injections come with that, but you have to earn it, because you've started at the bottom tier of the English League and worked your way up. So you've then earned that cash injection, just like any of the other teams that are that have made it into the Premier League, who weren't in it in its inception, if you like. But in terms of an oil-rich guy coming in and buying the club and taking us to another level, I think that's selling your soul.
I wouldn't want that either.
No, I wouldn't want that. I definitely wouldn't want that. But I think, because that's like a guy just comes in, boom, you've got the money, and right, you're just spending money, and you've just got it. You've done nothing to get it. But if you go down to England and say, right, okay, we'll start at the bottom, because why should we go right into the Premier League? That would just be wrong, morally wrong. But if we go, okay, right, we'll start at the bottom, we'll work our way up, I think you've then earned it. So
I would agree with that. I totally would agree with that, but again, it still doesn't sit right with me that a Scottish team would be playing in an English league.
I understand. I take that point as well, by the way. I do. But
and the only other alternative would be a UK-wide league with one top division and the rest amalgamated into separate divisions. That would be interesting.
I think we're in as good a place as we've ever been at this moment in time, our club, financially.
I agree.
Staff and all the rest of it, and I just think that if we're talking about trying to better ourselves. I think that just needs to be Champions League. We need to try and I don't know. You need money for that, and that's like that's what we're talking about. But I just think that's we should just be looking at progressing that year on year. And
But by the way, I'm not unhappy with the club right now. I'm more than content with the way we are. But if that opportunity was put in front of me, I would grab it with both hands.
If you had like a drop-down menu of comments, yours would be looking elsewhere. No, looking for a bigger league. I get the arguments. I want to bring Brown Warrior in. Nothing lasts forever, William. Football is moving in a different direction. We're already seeing the big clubs pushing for a closed shop in Europe. It's coming. Red Scotland, kind of in your camp, Willie. How do we as Celtic promote our core values as a club and people? If we're paying EPL wages of 100k per week to players, how does that marry up? And then Brown Warrior again. You can either sit in your morals and get left behind and embrace the change and hope to be part of it. We are Celtic, not where we play. What do you think about that? Them comments, Willie?
I think that if, like, I understand that if that's the move, if that's the way football's moving and that's what happens, then yeah, but that's a total different conversation. That's like if we're talking European Super Leagues and all the rest of it, and that's what happens, then yeah, I'd be more open to it because that's the direction and that's where football.
Wow. Party political broadcast by Danny here, Danny. Come on. That's not what is happening.
Well played.
And that's the direction that's going. Then and that's where football's moving in that moment in time. Then I probably would be more open to it, but that's not. He says it's coming. I don't see it coming anytime soon. I think that's fucking 10, 20, 30 years away.
I think if
say you for having conversations, but there was conversations last year, and within a week, it was everything was shut down and everybody pulled out because it was because the money
was crazy.
Aye, it's the exact same. Like nobody follows golf, but exact same in golf. Where they've all moved away to this with the Saudi money, and all these golfers have moved, and it's like, listen, you move, that's it. You're no fucking coming back. And no, that's kind of it's not progressing as they would have hoped, and they're stuck in limbo now. And I think it's the exact same things happened with the Super League, but the teams have actually went shut the nest and thought, maybe we're not as powerful as we thought we were. We better go back. I think with that you're destroying the history and you're sucking all the love out the sport for me if you're doing stuff like that.
I understand that, by the way. I do, and you make a good point. But I'll put to you, like if we did go down south, right, and we started at the bottom and we worked our way up, and I don't know, just for talking sake, a scenario, right? If we got to the Premier League and we finished, I don't know, we finished top 4, right? And then the following season, we went and got like 3rd and we won the Champions League. Would you be like, it's not really sitting well with me?
No, of course I wouldn't. No, of course. Listen, if the decision was made tomorrow that we were away, I would be mega disappointed. Mega disappointed. But it's not going to stop me following my club. This is my first love, and like I love Celtic more than fucking anything in the world. It's my first love and always will be. That like I'll always support them through the good and the bad. But I would be majorly disappointed. Saying that, after about 3 years, I'd probably forget all about it.
Because it'd just be the norm.
It would just be
once
the norm.
You do something 40
like
times,
anything.
that's it. It's just normal.
Aye, exactly. But I just think something like that would suck all. Aye, see Scottish Cup or the FA Cup when you've got minnows, tiny teams coming to big teams and all that. That's football for me. Absolutely.
He's spoken. Athlete. We'll have to stop.
It's came in for the garden. Icicle singing up the beak. Is that?
It's on the picture.
I see for me, fucking, what are they called? What was the minnow team that beat Aberdeen this year? Darvel. All the rest of that. That's football.
Darvel, yeah.
That's magic. That's football. Not this. Just watching the Champions League the last couple of nights. Fucking absolute. Like.
I'm on the next seat beside you, big man. I really am. But if someone goes to me, look, here's a couple £100 million for Celtic, you're taking it. Like, to me, you're taking it in the bank, and you're hoping to improve the squad. I get the moral argument and the history. Let's be fair here. I mean, there's clubs in Scotland that make up their own history, so we're not really bothered in that sense. We're
I
still
know,
we're
but
going to
no
be.
us. All we talk
I
about
know exactly.
all Celtic bang
100%.
on about is how their history and how they're proud of the traditions and all the rest of it. I think if they went and did that, that would totally contradict what they're
But
talking
Dermot
about.
Desmond's a billionaire.
but,
You know what I mean? He's a billionaire.
I know.
So we're owned by a billionaire, technically.
What about, like, you're talking about the history and all that, right? Celtic won a European Cup. They've got a great history and all that, right? Bayern Munich won European Cups years ago. Great history. But they've got loads of money now because they play in a different league for Celtic, right? Why are they more deserving, and why is the soul not out of their club when they were given this money? But if Celtic take that money, they lose the soul. That Bayern Munich still got a great history. They're still looked at as a massive club, a great club. They play in Germany. Germany, for whatever reason, they've got more money going into them for TV and stuff. But why is the soul not ripped out of them? Why is the soul not ripped out of Man U? These are big clubs.
I don't understand the question. What? So they've no moved leagues, or they're still.
I take that point. Fair enough. But still, they've had cash injections. Lucky, they've been lucky to be in the league they're in. But let's say they've been kept at that level, whereas Celtic have been diminished year on year because teams like that, who Celtic are as big as, are being kept at that level, and everything, the way football works, is pushing Celtic down further and further away. So why should we not take a piece of that pie?
No, I understand that.
And keep our history like they have.
I understand that, but it's exactly like like if the money was in Scottish football, I wouldn't disagree with you if that was the case. But we're not jumping ship, and I just think, similar to what you said earlier about McStay being in that era where it was just shit, just tough luck. We're in this league. It's not the best league in the world, but that's fucking where we are.
Aye. Listen, there's pros and cons to it all.
100%.
That's why we're debating. Yeah. But
I mean, I think to kind of round it off, I think in 15 years time, we will be in the SPFL. I don't think we will be. That's no slant on. I think football move on a lot during that time. And Tony Austin's in.
I tell you about Eddie Howe, and I tell you would leave the league in like 30 years time.
Yeah.
If we won the Champions League, would you be disappointed, William? No, that pretty much rounds it up. I'm not Antonio Oswald. We'll move on from the EPL chat. As Danny Boy said, we're trying to make Celtic British on St. Paddy's Day, which we're absolutely not, by the way. We're just kind of debating it. We'll move on. What are we? An hour and a half in, guys. This is a Friday, usually us free. To the Japan squad, Ross. And you seen the interview today with Dan Orlowitz, and we were kind of breaking down the comments by the Japanese manager when he was brought in, saying he was questioning the level of Scottish football. People jumped on it. But all Dan was trying to do when he explained to me was translate quickly off the bat what that manager was saying. In terms of Kyogo and Hatate, he referenced them and said that they can be and will be special players for Japan. But at the moment, Dan said he wants to give other players a try in that Japan national team. But he would become concerned if it got to the summer and none of them were called up. Is that if you're thinking? Because we spoke about Hatate maybe on Kyogo, maybe looking for pastures new if they kept getting overlooked by the Japan boss. Dan did his best to squash the kind of talk today, but he did give me a warning. If it gets to summertime, then they'll be going, what's going on here?
For me, them not getting picked for that Japan squad, there's been far too much onus put on it in terms of like they're going to get restless and want to leave and play in a better league and stuff like that. Even with Carter Vickers hasn't been picked for the USA squad, and they're saying the same thing, like that's not good either. Well, these guys are probably going to want to go. For me, like I say, I think there's been too much onus put on it. I think that Kyogo, I think he's getting to an age now where that manager's maybe just not going to pick him. He might, because he is playing well. He might force his way in, but Dan Orlovitz said, the way that guy, the Japanese manager's playing now, it's more suited to Maeda playing up top rather than, because they're not playing like that Ange ball, they're playing more like hitting teams on the counter and stuff like that, and Maeda works better for it. But you look at like they're talking about Hatate, CCV. These guys might want to move on to pastures new. These guys will move on to pastures new. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Yep. No doubt about it. But they won't move on to pastures new because they want to give themselves a better chance of playing for their national team. They move on to pastures new because they're playing well for Celtic, and teams want to buy them. And then when they when they move to wherever they move to, which will be a better league in Scotland, then if they keep performing for the team they go to in the bigger league, then the national team stuff will take care of itself. But at the same time, okay, Hatate's not been getting picked, right? But I look at it in the sense, Maeda got picked, right? So that tells me maybe the position he plays in is maybe not as competitive as the position Hatate plays in. It might be a really difficult position to get into. I don't know for certain, but it's just a possibility. I look at CCV. He's came in. He's played at a World Cup. He wasn't getting picked for the USA. He bounced from club to club. He came into Celtic. He got picked for a World Cup. Went and represented his country off the back of playing well for Celtic. So this whole myth that these guys are not getting picked, there's hundreds of examples of players getting that have played for Celtic and play for. Abada gets picked for his country. Now I know that he's no as a quality sort of level of national team is what we're talking about with maybe Hatate, USA are on the up, but CCV will get picked again for the USA squad playing for Celtic, in my opinion. You look at guys, one example, Lustig stayed at Celtic for 7 years. You get picked for almost every Swedish squad there was. Playing for Celtic doesn't hinder your chances of getting picked for your national team unless you're English, because you've got the English snobbery, because they are the closest to us. They look down their nose at the Scottish league, but they do. Like I'm sitting here now. I've been championing for Celtic to go into the English league, but then at the same time now I'm talking. But they do.
Well, he's like us. Well,
they do. Sound like Franny.
They do, but these guys playing for Celtic isn't the reason they're not getting picked for the national squad, because. And I think that argument's strengthened by the fact that Maeda's been picked. It's just down to the quality of player that's maybe getting picked in front of them in their position. And by the way, Dan Orlovitz said it. Like if they get picked in the whatever was it, like the October international or the June one or something like that.
Yeah,
can't mind. But they've got like Hatate, whether it be at Celtic or at another club, Hatate will play for that Japanese squad. He's too good not to. I don't know why he's not getting picked right now, but it's not because he's playing at Celtic. Absolutely not, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you, and Dan Orlovitz kind of confirmed that as well. And Tony also comes in here, William. Standard of football is not it for me. Look at Maeda, he's getting picked. Japan coach is empowered by the last 16 result of the World Cup to stick to his core players and tactics, right? And this is what you always say to me, especially when I'm on Twitter. Don't believe everything you read. And when I seen the Japan manager question the level of the Scottish League, I was like, oh no, here we go again, signaling that these players are going to move on. That'll be the next rumour coming out the door. And then basically like a schoolboy this morning, Dan broke it down bit by bit for me what he actually meant. And it wasn't that at all. What Dan said, he has over 60 European, Japanese-based players to look at, which is a lot. There's players who play in the Bundesliga, the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, which obviously get prioritised because they're top quality leagues. And then Hatate and Kyogo don't necessarily play the same football as Antonio said there as a Japan manager. Ross said it's counter attack, which is why Maeda suits it well. So that's the reason probably why they haven't picked as much. And then Dan went on to say Kyogo had his chance but didn't necessarily take it. So that could probably lead to him not being called up again in the future. Do you think with these sorts of things that, again, it's the hype created by newspaper articles saying the Japan manager's questioning this, followed by will these players move on, and then Carter Vickers thrown in the mix and not getting picked for USA? I think it's just something made out of nothing.
With the papers, absolutely. Like as you said, I always bang on about it. It was happened with Giakoumakis recently, where he said he's happy to be moving it. The headline was he's been happy to move to a more competitive league, happy to get out of Celtic or something like that. And then when you actually read the article, what he said was a different team wins it every year, so it's fairly competitive. So they just spin it to do their narrative. It does nothing. But with regards to the national team, I was working, so I've never seen. I think Dan fucking burst 2 strings in it at the cup final, so I hate to restring it, so that you're not getting fuck all at me tonight. I've not seen the podcast this morning because working, but I'm going to watch it tomorrow, so I've not had an in-depth. But for what you're saying, if they're playing a counter-attacking game, then I've never seen anybody better than Kyogo in the counter and his movement and getting forward. So it blows my mind that he's not getting picked. And I'm no football manager, and the manager of the Japanese national team clearly is far more qualified than me.
Just a bit.
Yeah, but I watched it. Well, I don't know. I've been playing Football Manager since it was champ manager in like 97 or something. But I watched the World Cup games, and if you watch the 3 World Cup games they played and tell me that Hatate and Kyogo wouldn't improve that team, then I'm just watching a different game.
Dan basically said that this morning.
Did he? So I'm paraphrasing as well.
No. I was asking about. I was asking would Hatate do a job, and he was like he didn't really know because of the system they played.
And see what they said about as well. What you're saying about how he said they can do a job, but I want to give other people a chance. Has Hatate even got a cap yet? I don't even think he's got 1 cap, has he? So how the fuck is that giving other people a chance? Hatate this season for me has been the best player in the league, and I don't even think it's close. Honestly, I think he's been that good. People disagree. I know there's been other wonderful players. Kyogo can't stop scoring, and CCD colossal and all the rest of it. Porteous. But for me, he's head and shoulders above everybody in the league at the moment, and it just baffles me how he doesn't even get a call up. It really, really does, and especially even more so the more and more I hear about the way they play, it baffles me even more, especially with Kyogo. Kyogo's movement up front is spectacular. I've never seen anything like it at Celtic Park. The movement is unbelievable, and I always think about how we always talked about with Giakoumakis and to an extent, where if Kyogo's not working, it's something totally different. So if he thinks Kyogo doesn't suit that style, then why not fling him on? Because it's something different as well, if you're looking at it for that side of things. But I mean, like I said, he's far more qualified than me. They've got some big name players now, like you said. There's a lot of Bundesliga players. Matoma that's at Brighton now. He's flying. So they've got some good players. But yeah, as soon as I seen that report about how the league wasn't good enough, I thought that must be nonsense because he's picked Maeda. So that totally dispels that statement, that argument. Glad to see Maeda getting called up. I think he's been absolutely superb this year as well. But it's a strange one for me without having full knowledge of the Japanese structure and the Japanese leagues and the Japanese players. These two are absolutely electric, just as good as I've seen at Celtic Park in the last however many years, and a lot of the players that I've seen in previous years are getting called up to their national teams, so it's baffling. But in the same token, it's good for Celtic. These guys aren't going away with the possibility of getting injured and the rest of it, but me and my passion for the national side, and I think most are the same. Although I would disagree with one thing Ross said about they're not going to leave Celtic because they're not getting time in the national team, because I believe players would do that. But I think Juranovic said that's why he left, did he not? That if he was going to be playing second fiddle, he'll not be playing with the national team, so he had to leave. I know that's probably just an excuse for fucking.
Aye, but that's no because of the league. That's because he's not getting a game for Celtic.
Aye, that's true. Aye, fair enough. But I agree that I think playing for your national team's like the highest honour. So if that's the case, and people see elsewhere, but saying that, I don't understand how the fuck going away and playing for Southampton makes you more feasible to be picked than it is playing for a team winning trophies and playing Champions League or European football. But that's just me.
That's the bit that baffles me, going to a mid-table team battling relegation and they're getting picked ahead of players. Like, I think the interesting thing, Dan, did tell me to have qualifiers or to have friendlies in Europe in June. So I think they're looking to see if they get called up then, and if not, that might be a bit of concern if Hatate is not called up.
Like I said in the group chat, how long is it till you get Scottish citizenship? 5 years. Hopefully Hatate doesn't get called up for another 3 years, and then there we are. He's in the midfield with Callum McGregor and John McGinn.
That's dynamite.
I'll be dynamite. And come to the comments that round this bit off. Brown Warrior, my only criticism of Kyogo has been the fact he seldom gambled at their front post, but now he's doing that and getting more goals. Antonio, Kyogo's speed and mobility are key in this game. This is not going to improve at age 31, 32 come the next World Cup. And Brown Warrior, his game is still developing under hands, which at his age is a good thing. It shows he doesn't think he's a finished article yet. 100%. We all know Kyogo and Hatate, unbelievable players. And like you said, Ross, they'll be in that Japan squad. There will be. If not Kyogo, definitely Hatate, 100%. But they kind of will have a game, lads, tomorrow. We'll go to talk about this Hibs game just briefly. I know we're nearly 2 hours in and people stuck with us. I do appreciate that. Usual Friday night with us. 10 Hibs tomorrow. Lee Johnson coming in, the guy who, again, he's a talker, like, up and down this season. Some good players like Yuan in the left. You're laughing at Campbell midfield.
He's a talker, like.
He talks a lot of shit. You ever hear his interview? Rocky Bashiri.
Like jackets.
Oh, you do. I knew you like his jackets. So they have
I like his trainers.
I love Slush. No, but they do have a couple. They do have a couple of good players. Like, to be fair to them, but they've been up and down, inconsistent. Working in. I think we're missing Nawada, we're missing Maeda, but everyone else is fit. Are you confident? Moy, sorry, thank fuck.
Maeda is.
I said about that.
Maeda's back.
Is Maeda fit? Is he? Back. Sorry, I got that mixed up then. But are you confident tomorrow into this game? Sell out as well at Celtic Park. So what are you feeling?
Is that for me?
Willie. Well, I said Willie.
I never heard you.
I never said Willie. I was waiting as well. Yes,
that's in the bar.
I am. Hibs are going all right. Lee Johnson's done a decent job recently, because I know they had a wee bit of dip in form and there was calls for his head. I quite like him. Quite like the fact that he's coming out afterwards. And I know I've got a couple of friends that are big Hibs fans. I was talking to one last week, and he doesn't like the fact that Lee Johnson comes out and says see the comments last time about how he's like, I've faced Man City and this Celtic side are right up there with them. They're the best side I've faced and all that. My mate, who's a big Hibs fan, didn't like that. He's like, I want somebody like Neil Lennon that'll fucking put the needle in and all the rest of it. But obviously, as us, we appreciate that for him. I think he's done a decent job there with the squad he's got.
Yeah, I agree.
But he said as well, he says, listen, we're going great, but we're coming to you next week and I'm absolutely fearing an absolute thumping. And I think that's what most teams feel like at the moment. I know I would if it was me. I'd be probably sitting behind the couch watching the games coming to us, because, like I said, rock and roll football, we could put our second team out and still be dominant, score goals for fun. So, like I am every week, I'm supremely confident and hopefully go out and put on a show again.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm actually really looking forward to the game. Bear in mind if the connection I get stays up, which has been annoying me the last couple of weeks. But coming to you, Ross, is tomorrow going to be the day for double figures?
No, I don't think so. No, Hibs have been, like Wally said there, they've been going pretty well. They had they started the season no bad, and then they had the middle part between the start and now was a real dip. I went to my mate, who's a Hibs supporter, took me to the hospitality at Livy, and it was Livy Hibs, and oh my god, they were abs.
Chippy fan for your food.
No, it was actually quite good. It was the food creations and all that, but Hibs were absolutely. Livy played well, don't get me wrong, but Hibs were absolutely chronic. And then, ironically, I was at hospitality at Parkhead, and it was Celtic Hibs. They weren't as bad that day, but Celtic were just too good. I think it was
6-1.
6-1 it was, something like that. It was a big score anyway.
That day, didn't you?
Nah, did I? Well, you've seen me later that night.
Oh, that's right. We were in from Nick that night.
Aye. So I again, like every week, you go into it, you're confident. The way Celtic are playing, even when they're not at their ultimate best, they click into gear for enough time in a game to score 2 or 3 goals. Yep. And sometimes even more than that. I'm confident and I expect a victory, and I expect a victory by a good margin, but double figures, absolutely not.
Score prediction, Ross. What do you go for?
I think somebody said it in the comments there. 5-0.
5-0. Willie, what about yourself?
I'll go 4.
4-0. I'd go 22-1. I'll go 3-0. I think we'll win 3-0. I think it'll be quite a comfortable game. Like Franley says, a comfy win, extending our points gap. They're playing Motherwell on Sunday, aren't they? Or is it tomorrow again?
But no, tomorrow, first again.
Are they Fair Park though?
Aye, but they're playing first again.
I know that. Who gives a shit?
That's a conscious decision, by the way. I don't care what anybody says. Take the pressure off Rangers.
We'll do our job. We keep winning. We'll win this league, no problem. We'll probably win it by more than 9, like you said, if we beat them. But lads, been a great podcast. The usual Friday night disaster with us three having a laugh and all that. Have you enjoyed it?
Brilliant.
Super.
Great laugh. Perry fans, love yous.
If anyone hasn't seen it, I did the interview with Dan Orowitz this morning. Catch it up on the YouTube channel or whatever. Just get on it.
It's really good. It's really good.
If you've learned anything tonight, I mean, 2 decks in the bath. That's all you need to know. Until Monday, after the Hibs game, hopefully celebrating a good result. Stay well, keep safe. Hail, hail.
I'm the bath.